Every now and then I feel bad for Luxembourg. Anyone who plays Hearts of Iron 4 makes fun of them for being weak. Meme historians make fun of them for surrendering in just a day in World War II. But you don't see anyone making fun of Denmark for surrendering in just 6 hours. Besides the point, Luxembourg is actually a really fascinating country with over a millennium of history. So, let's hop in. The story of Luxembourg begins in 963, when Count Siegfried, the pronunciations in this video are going to be awful, by the way, built a fort in the area of Luxembourg City, and his descendants fought and married across the general area. They repeated this until Luxembourg had gained a considerable size. The County of Luxembourg joined the Holy Roman Empire and had 3 members of their royal line rule as emperors of the Holy Roman Empire, the third of which made Luxembourg a duchy. Things were looking great for our favorite tiny nation. Then Philip III, or second, or even first, it depends on where you're counting, inherited the Luxembourg throne in 1556, creating a personal unity with all the Benelux, as well as Spain and Portugal. Philip ruled a lot of different countries. However, he was part of the Habsburg family, and when the Habsburgs split their land between Austria and Spain, the 17 provinces of the Netherlands, which included Luxembourg, went to Spain. This began a long time of Luxembourg not being ruled by fellow Luxembourgers. Wait, that's actually the name from someone from Luxembourg? Oh my god, I'm so... Anyways, France and Spain went to war, and since the 17 provinces of the Netherlands belonged to Spain, they also fought against France. When France and England won in 1659, France took some of Luxembourg's lands, shown on the screen. This was known as the First Partition. Not like there be any more. Right, guys? Right? Anyways, Luxembourg had a pretty uneventful 2.5 decades. Until in 1684, France led an invasion into Luxembourg and occupied it. This, along with some other conspiracies, convinced a large coalition consisting of England, Austria, Spain, the Dutch Republic, who had gotten their independence, and several states of the HRE to attack the French in 1686. 9 years later, when the war ended, Luxembourg was freed. Actually, I wouldn't say freed, more like under new management. Anyways, for a few decades, Luxembourg belonged to Spain until the Wars of Spanish Succession of 1701 to 1714, after which Luxembourg went back to Austria under the Habsburgs' rule again in 1715, which remained uneventful for years except the time that Austria thought about trading them away for somewhere else, but nothing really happened from that. Until Napoleon Bonaparte came along and managed to make literally every European nation mad at him. Napoleon managed to occupy Luxembourg from 1795 to 1815, putting a lot of French influence into Luxembourg. However, when Napoleon Bonaparte's French Empire blew apart, Prussia took land from eastern Luxembourg, and Luxembourg was ruled by the same man who ruled the Netherlands, William I. In theory, William I was supposed to rule them as 2 completely different countries. However, he treated Luxembourg as if it was just another province of the Netherlands. Luxembourgers were not fans of this, so when South Netherlands, or Belgium, take your pick, revolted against their Dutch overlords in 1830, many Luxembourgers fought on the Belgian side. When the Belgians won and gained their independence in 1939 at the Treaty of London, Luxembourg was forced to hand over half of its territory to Belgium. Wait. Let me get this straight. Many of Luxembourg's own population helped the Belgians, and in return, Belgium took half of their country? They even called their new province Luxembourg. How rude is that? I'm getting ahead of myself. Luxembourg also joined the Confederation of German States, meaning that they had lots of trade with the other German states. Prussia even had their military garrisoning Luxembourg. Anyways, this leads us into the 1860s, when Prussia was trying to unite all German states. Prussia had just beat Austria in a war, something that no one thought they could do. Prussia was now even stronger than they used to be. When Prussia went to war, they allegedly made very vague promises to the French that they could take Luxembourg. Napoleon III, believing Prussia would stay out of it, offered William III a large sum of money for the land, which William III gladly accepted since the Netherlands were kind of broke because of the whole revolution and whatnot. Prussia's Prime Minister, Otto von Bismarck, who is a legend, by the way, when hearing of this news, declared it was unacceptable. Bismarck refused to let France buy Luxembourg, since Luxembourg was technically a German state, threatening war if the transaction ensued. This is known as the Luxembourg Crisis of 1867, and honestly, this is my favorite period of Luxembourg's history, because it's just so ridiculous how these two nations almost fought a war against each other just for Luxembourg. At the Second Treaty of London, which, if you don't remember, the first treaty gave away Luxembourg lands to Belgium after the Belgian Revolution. Anyways, at the Treaty of London, the sequel, France accepted Luxembourg's independence and Prussia agreed to remove their troops from Luxembourg. When William III died in 1890, the Dutch throne was passed to his daughter. This was unacceptable to the Luxembourgers. They needed a male, not a girl. Shocking. Sexism in the 1800s. Who would have guessed? So, William's 17th cousin, once removed. Wait, actually, Adolpha took the Luxembourg throne. So finally, Luxembourg was independent again. Luxembourg ruled itself from 1890 to 1914, where it worked on industrializing. Oh yeah, Germany took France's border with Luxembourg. Franco-Prussian Wars or something. Anyways, Luxembourg had built some crazy strong forts, and it had a lot of railroads. So it would be a great place to have in a war, right? Which is exactly what the Germans were thinking. In 1914, when World War I started up, Germany invaded Luxembourg and Belgium to get around France's forts. The issue was both countries had claimed to be neutral, and thousands of British people wanted to stand up for Little Belgium. What about Little Luxembourg, huh? Well, the Entente beat the Central Powers and Luxembourg was freed. At this point, Luxembourg began to seriously work on making themselves even more industrial. Later, Germany's democracy was overthrown by a man with a silly mustache. Although this man wanted to take over way more stuff, he claimed in a speech in 1939 that Germany would not invade Luxembourg, which they did anyways in 1940 to get around France's borders again. Just another example of how sequels rip off the original. Anyways, Luxembourg's very small army surrendered and the leaders of the country fled to Great Britain, where they helped send a volunteer army on D-Day. Unlike Germany in World War I, the German Reich straight up annexed all of Luxembourg, forcing them to give up many of their French ways. Finally, the Allies landed back in Europe and liberated Luxembourg in 1944. After the war, Luxembourg started the EU with France, Belgium, the Netherlands, West Germany, and Italy. Luxembourg City is currently one of the capitals of the European Union. Luxembourg is also a contributing member to NATO and the Benelux. Luxembourg became super rich and became known as a tax haven since it has small taxes on businesses. Luxembourg currently has the second highest GDP in the world, meaning that the average citizen makes more than $100,000 a year. Currently, Adolphe's great-great-grandson, Henry, is on the Luxembourg throne. In conclusion, stop making fun of Luxembourg. Thank you for your time.